Okay, welcome back to another video on the Maths channel. This is your teacher, Mr. Lim here, and in this video, I'm just going to quickly review compass bearings and true bearings, because I know that this is a concept that a lot of students find very tricky. So let's start off with compass bearings. The four main compass bearings are from north to something east, north to west, south to east, south to west. So north to east is the angle created from north to east. This is really important. From north to east, because we start at north and we're going east. Okay. North to west, the angle created from north to west, because we start at north and then we're going west. From south to east, the angle created from south, we start at south to east. Okay, and the last one, south to west. So let's have a look at 3 examples. I'm going to show you how to do this. It's actually very simple. So we want to find a bearing of the letter from O. So here in question 1, we've got the letter A from O being the origin. By the way, a lot of students find this confusing. It's not this that's O. O represents the origin, which is that point right there. Which means we can write O anywhere. We can write O here. We could have written it there. We could have written it here. It just so happens that the question chose to write it there. That's it. Okay. So O is just the origin, which represents that point. So from O, we want to ask ourselves, because we're doing compass bearings, what quadrant is it in? Well, this is southeast. Therefore, we're going from south to east. But how many degrees are we going from south to east? That's 50 degrees. So it's south 50 degrees east. If we want to work out the opposite compass bearing, to O instead of from O, that means all we need to do is change these letters. So we want to find the opposite bearing. To O becomes, or from A instead, becomes north 50 degrees west. Okay, so the angle stays the same. So let's have a look at question B. I want to know what bearing, what quadrant B is in. Well, it's in northwest. North something west. The question is, because I'm starting at north, which is here, how many degrees west am I going? I want to know how big this angle is. Well, because we know the other angle is 10 and this is 90 degrees, this has to be 80 degrees. So from O is north 80 degrees west. So if I want to work out the opposite bearing to O or from B, we're just going to change these letters to south, 80 degrees east. Okay, so hopefully that's enough. Pause the video, have a go with question 3 and 4 yourselves, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so C is in the southwest quadrant. And we're going from south to west. From south to west, I want to know how big that angle is. Well, it tells us it's 60 degrees, so we don't need to work it out. It's south 60 degrees west. Therefore, the opposite bearing has to be north 60 degrees east. And for the last one, we know that it's in the northeast quadrant. And from north to east, I want to know how big this angle is. That angle there is 45 degrees. So it's north 45 degrees east. And the opposite bearing of 2O, or in this case from D, it will be south 45 degrees west. Okay, so I hope that makes a little bit more sense for compass bearings. Let's have a look at true bearings. True bearings are always measured from north in the clockwise direction until we hit the line. So for question 1, We want from O, so we're starting north of O, in a clockwise direction until we hit the line. I want to know how big that angle is. Well, if a straight line is 180 degrees and this one's 50, this has to be 130 degrees. Therefore, the bearing of A from O is 130 degrees true. If I want to work out the opposite bearing, what I need to do is I need to have a look at this answer and ask myself, is it more or less than 180 degrees? If it's less than 180 degrees, I'm going to add 180 to it. However, if this number here was more than 180, I would subtract 180 from it to get the opposite bearing. So let's have a look at question 2. I want the bearing of B from O. So from O means north of O in a clockwise direction until I hit that line. So that's 90, 180, 270 plus 10 is 280 degrees. Now if I want the opposite bearing, to O or from B, then I need to look at this answer that I just wrote down. Because that answer is is more than 180 degrees, I need to subtract 180 from it to get the opposite bearing. Alright, I hope that makes sense. Have a go with question 3 and 4 yourselves. Okay, so from O means north of O in a clockwise direction. That's 180 plus 60 is 240 degrees. True. Well, if I want to work out the opposite bearing, hey, that's more than 180, so I'm going to minus 180 from it, and that's 60 degrees. But whenever we have a number that's a bearing that only has 2 digits, we need to add that 0 at the front, because all bearings must have 3 digits. Right, and last one, bearing is 45 degrees. So we need to write 0, 45 degrees, true. Because that's less than 180, the opposite bearing, we need to add 180 to it, which is 225 degrees, true. Okay, so I hope that makes sense on how to work out compass and true bearings.